my dad also said they have a better intelligence agency than the CIA. And they do. And they really do. And they have very powerful people involved in this. Because after all, when you look at the scripture says the whole world lies in the evil one. So when you're going after those type of people, you're going after, you're going after Freemasons and Satanists and people that have been practicing this kind of stuff since the beginning of time, because they hate God, and they love their God, who's not the God that we love. They love their God, Lucifer and Satan, and they're very devoted to him, and they're going to do what they're going to do. But you're going to find in eternity that it's going to be hellfire is going to be hellfire. Hey, Otto, is that you?
Yes. Hi,
Good.
is this Greg?
Beautiful. It is. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I don't see you yet. I can hear you. But
yeah, hold on a second. Let me turn that on.
There
I
you go.
am.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Too. You too.
No, honestly, it truly is. It's almost like it truly is an honor. I think I've just seen so many interviews of your father that I'm just like, I feel very connected to you and your family for some reason.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, he's had quite his life was quite a story.
Yeah, I can imagine. I really wanted to call you and talk to you really just about, really just to get your perspective of you. I mean, being the son of someone, that first of all was an FBI agent and then pursued this, probably the biggest story of all time, pursued this thing with such confidence and such like determination. And it really, he really inspired me in so many ways, but I really wanted to get your perspective, just being his son, and like, how he felt most days pursuing this stuff, and did he share this kind of stuff with you? Just kind of get that perspective.
Sure. Would you like me to, Otto? Would you like me to kind of give you a family rundown with him and the FBI and sort of how we grew up, and then go from there?
Yes, that would be great. I have a backstory, and then into that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, I'll start off. Well, I was born in Mineola, New York, and so my dad he moved around a lot. Our whole family moved around a lot, and we started off obviously in outside of New York City in Long Island, and then with the FBI, he moved to New Mexico and was what they call a special agent. And from New Mexico, I think we moved when I was about 6 years old to Washington, D.C., and those were the years that the Kennedy assassination took place. And there was a lot going on in the 60s. I think that was probably like Kennedy was 63, right? So I think, from 63 in the mid-60s, with all the turmoil going on, he was in Washington, D.C. And when I believe it was, if I forget exactly how old, I think it was 10 years old. And then we moved from D.C. to New Haven, Connecticut. And a lot of his work was involved with the chasing down the Black Panthers, the Students for Democratic Society, the Weather Underground. And with that, we moved from New Haven to the Philadelphia area. And that was in probably 1970, 71, I forget exactly. And we were there for, my mom and dad divorced in 73, and he moved on to become what they call a special agent in charge. He went to Memphis, and then he went to Dallas, and he finally retired in Los Angeles. And when he left the FBI, he retired in 79. When he left the FBI, he open investigative business, Ted Gunderson Associates, in Los Angeles, and this is when this is when life got really interesting for him, and this is when he started investigating some of the things that you're well aware of. And would you like me to go from there? How you got into this?
Yeah, I was just going to ask. So really, it was really when he went private that he started. Is it that he started being more open about investigating that, or people started coming to him more? You know, which one? What kind of instigated that shift into that?
Sure. Well, it was quite by accident. One of his major case, and he came back east. One of his major cases was the Jeffrey McDonald case with Jeffrey McDonald's a Green Beret doctor who was accused of killing his family. Now, I believe, and my dad truly believed this, and I truly believe this, he was innocent. I don't know if you're aware of the details of that.
A little bit, yeah. As soon as you mentioned the beret thing, I was like, oh, right. Yeah.
So what he did, he came back and he actually started investigating. He came to our house in Pennsylvania, and he started from there. He visited us and everything, and then he went to North Carolina, Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, I believe it is. And then he started uncovering some things that were covered up. A lot of forensic evidence was covered up and botched by the Criminal Investigation Division of the Army at Fort Bragg, and he had Helena Stokely, who was a eyewitness, and she is a participant in the murders of McDonald's family. He had her as an eyewitness, but they would not. She participated in, but the judge threw it out because of her drug problem. He considered her an unreliable witness. So my dad did find out that in Fayetteville at the time, and this was what was happening. It was actually there was an article about it in Time magazine. They were bringing from Southeast Asia and the Vietnam area, the Golden Triangle. They were bringing a lot of drugs back into the body cavities of dead GIs, bringing them back into Fayetteville, or Fort Bragg was one of the areas in which they were bringing this into, and he was stumbling quite by accident onto a major drug ring working on that base, and involved in that drug ring was satanic cults that were part of this. And from there, he started getting, from that case, he started getting exposure, and this was all by accident.
He started pulling on threads, right?
He started, following different leads, being in the type of investigator he was. He was very good. F. Lee Bailey called him the finest investigator he ever worked with, and he did work for F. Lee Bailey, my father did. And with that situation he was involved in down there, he started getting exposure, and he was on a couple. He was on some of Geraldo's shows back then. In 1988, he was on a show at nighttime, and you could probably view it on YouTube. I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna look this one up. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was involved on that, and he was on a panel, and because of his exposure on TV, he started getting letters from people that were involved in satanic activity that were trying to get out of it, and he didn't know anything about this, the satanic movements and things that were going on. But he was getting letters from people all across the nation, and it might even been overseas from people that kind of knew him. So he was getting stacks of letters. He was telling me, Greg, I'm getting stacks of letters. I don't know anything about this, but they're from different walks of life and different areas of the country, and they're all telling me the same story. They're all telling me they're involved in this stuff. They don't know how to get out. So he had tried to help a lot of these people, and I think he did. And if he didn't exactly know how to help them, he knew people that could get them counseling, possibly set them up, with a new life where they can get away from this, because they're very dangerous, as you know. So that's how he kind of got into it. And then through his investigative work, he started developing a lot of contacts. And he worked, I think he told me, and now there's some things he couldn't tell me, obviously for my own and my family's safety. But he worked with a group of retired generals and law enforcement retirees, exposing a lot of this stuff. And they had a network of people that they worked with, and they lost a few through criminal activity, lost a few guys. And my dad, he was always being threatened. He had contracts out on him. He also had some really very, very dangerous people that, I won't bring their name up, publicly now. But one was considered Charles Manson II. And he had put a hit out of mother.
Wow.
So it was a very, now at this time, my dad and mom, in the 70s, they both got divorced. He moved on. I left that part out. So he moved on by himself. So he went to the West Coast, and we were back on the East Coast in the Philadelphia area. We stayed back here, but he went from our area in Pennsylvania to Memphis, and then Dallas, and then Los Angeles, and that's when he retired. But he got into this quite by accident, and started exposing it, and was a lot of people said he was crazy, and he definitely was not. And he developed some pretty powerful enemies, and they
can imagine.
Yeah, one of the things they do is their first movement is try to discredit you, and you could probably see some of the things online that they said about them, but they're not true.
Yeah.
Good, you're a smart young guy.
No, trust me. One thing I learned about Satanism is that what the practice, and this is just going like not even going into the spiritual, just like the actual practice is about inversion of the truth. It's about literally the actual inverting of the truth. So everything they say for me is like, oh, so the exact opposite. Got it.
You got it. That's good. That's good. That's good. So you've been looking at this stuff for a while, and thank the good Lord that you're exposing this. But yeah, once again, be careful too. You're brave.
Yeah, I've been researching this for years myself, and have been very, very silent, just because of that fear of what could be the retaliation. But I only did because of COVID, and when I noticed when Trump went into office, when he went into the office and he just started blurting it out, I felt much safer in it. Yeah, but I appreciate that. I appreciate looking out. Yeah.
Sure, he's been one who he's a brave man, and he's also he's one in our corner. Okay,
yeah.
Have you Otto? Have you heard of the Franklin cover-up? Have you seen a lot about that?
I did actually. That's actually why your wife reached out. I posted a video of your father. And I used one of his younger pictures, and he talked a little bit about it. But yeah, I'm very familiar. But please, sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was he was hired as the lead investigator for that. The first guy, I believe his name was Gary Caradori, if I'm not mistaken. He lost his life in the plane when the plane blew up in midair, and his 10-year-old.
Oh, right. He called him Rusty.
Rusty Nelson. Rusty Nelson. Mm-hmm. He had pictures of compromised politicians in his possession, and then the plane blew up, headed back to Nebraska, and I think it was over Illinois, I believe it was. And the FBI took control of the area where the plane went down, and obviously took the evidence away.
Yeah. He mentioned those all the pictures were scattered, and the sheriff didn't keep his mouth shut.
No, the sheriff, exactly. So yeah, that was a big one he was involved in, the Franklin cover up. So
how did he I want to know about his emotions around it. Like what was motivating him to push this truth out? What would he come home and go, man, this is how I feel about it?
Mm-hmm. His love for people, Otto. My dad was a believer like us. His love for the Lord, his Savior Jesus Christ. and his love for people motivated him to do the things he did, and his love for kids. You know, the kids are the most innocent, and his love for children, and know that the type of stuff that was being done to them motivated him. And at times, emotionally, he got very discouraged. But his overall, he told me, he said, Greg, God has called me to do this. And I totally believe him, because there wasn't a lot of people that were doing it at the time, exposing this, and it was very evil. And as you well know, they're well entrenched, and it's international in scope. So he had a calling of God to do this, and he had the God-given ability with the tools he had and the connections also. Because like I say, there were others that were involved in this that were doing legwork for him. He asked me to do it, but with the family, I wasn't, I didn't feel safe enough to do it, to help him with this, with children and everything. So and there were things he for my safety and the family's safety, he didn't tell me. I know there were, and I would ask him and he wouldn't answer. But he
smart man.
Yeah, he was a smart man. I thanked him for it. But he was not afraid. He was not afraid, and there were attempts on his life. There were a lot of higher ups that were, there were a lot of higher ups that were trying to discredit him, and that's including the FBI, politicians.
Sure.
The one group he did investigate by accident once again was the Finders Group. And are you familiar with that group?
I am. Yes. Yeah.
And they're
that was a big one. That was probably one of the biggest ones, I would say, at that time, that kind of opened the door for so many, because that was like the first time that somebody said that there was like politicians and all those types of people involved, and they were called crazy for it.
Yes, because at the time it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Right. With at that time when he did a lot of the investigative work, it was hard to share things because we didn't have social media. So once again, you would have books, and he used to do a lot of small conferences like the Prophecy Club. He would be, if you notice some of his videos, he's at the Prophecy Club. He would speak at other churches, other groups of people. So most of the exposure was coming through those small windows of groups. Now you have social media, you have YouTube, you have great people like yourself. Liz Crokin's another one.
Yes,
there were others too, and you guys are doing a fantastic, great job, and you've picked up the baton, and you're scoring touchdowns. Well, you don't score a touchdown with a baton.
Yeah, running the race, or finish line. The finish line.
The finish line, yeah. But,
no, it's funny you say it that way. I really do feel that. I even feel that way, really, with Liz Crokin. Like, she's done so much for decades. I communicate with her on and off on occasion, and actually, that's how your wife found me. It was through her page.
Yes.
But I've discussed it with her that, like, you can relax now. I got this. I really feel that way a little bit. So, yeah, it feels like a downline. Wow, that's great. I like that.
So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. But like I say, he felt it was his calling in life, and I believe it was, that God had raised him up to do this, and he was bound and determined to make it happen.
Tell them how they went to the
I think it's beautiful that you said that about the kids, because for me, that's really for me as well. I helped in a children's ministry for 10 years, and really, when I was younger, I was 12 to 22, and loved it. I loved it, and it really showed me the energy around children, and how that's where life is. Life is the children's energy, and that's our in the totality of the world, that's like our birthright, right? To have that energy, to have that pureness. So to fight for that, I mean, that's the greatest. I would say the greatest thing to fight for.
Oh, it really is.
For the kids.
Yes, and he, you know, one of the things that I always picture, you know, I picture these kids, and they're, you know, when they're kidnapped and things, they're probably terrified, and and it to me, it just upsets me to such a point. I'm you know, I just very upset, and personally, if I ever see it happening, I think I would end up destroying the person that did it to one of these young kids. I would just, because we were brought up a certain way, and I'm sure you were too.
Yeah.
That, you know, to be a protector and to be one who is like a sheepdog, and to watch over, you know, to watch over those that are vulnerable. And you know, I think our society as a whole, as you well know, has gone down the tubes in many ways, and the perversion and the horrific stuff that they're doing to these children is just so upsetting. And I my hat goes off to all you social warriors that are doing a great job, because it's you know, I respect totally what you guys do, and it's great. I'm not very good on the technologically stuff. I'm more of a truck driver. So give me a big rig and 70.
Hey, I always tell people, I was like, I always tell people, it's like, look, the best thing you can do for yourself is look at what you're good at, and then just do that. You know, like, I'm not going to be good in the streets. I'm not that kind of warrior. This is my battleground right here.
Good. Hey, you're reaching a lot of people. Honey, what was the question you asked me?
When your dad walked all the information.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, my wife's bringing something up. One thing, Otto, that he did, he came back here for about 3 weeks, and he went to Washington, D.C. We're about an hour, or maybe an hour and a half north of D.C. So he went to D.C. and walked he had reports that were very, very good, very thorough. He walked his reports into many, and I can't say all, but many of the senators and congressmen in D.C. years ago. And President, was it Reagan at that time? Yeah, he brought his report to President Reagan, the CIA, and the FBI. Now, the FBI, according to my father, evidently threw him out of the alumni. He called them dirty. So that is something that, Drew, as you can see today, they are dirty. Not the rank and file guys, but the higher ends, the Muellers, the Comeys, and this guy Ray. They're dirty dogs, and I'm convinced they're all involved in it. They're all involved in it.
I agree, and that's why he's draining the swamp.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The swamp's very deep, and it doesn't like to go down the sewer drain very easily.
No, I keep telling people, I was like, what you're experiencing now is the demon writhing right before it's exercised. It's kicking and screaming on its way down.
Yep, that's a great way to put it, and it is. And they're trying all their little tricks to get him out of there and to discredit him. But what he did, my dad did back then, he walked his report in. Now, I don't know. He said a lot of times they kind of just shunned him, you know, but there might have been some people that held on to it and said, you know, we got to do something. I don't know. And my dad died in 2010. So I don't know if some of them, you know, maybe when we get the right administration in, we'll do this. But we definitely have the right administration in now. And he, as you can see, he's taken down a lot of these groups, big groups. And there's probably many others that we're not hearing about.
I agree. There's so many layers to this.
Yes, there's a lot of layers. And my dad also said they have a better intelligence agency than the CIA, and they do, and they really do, and they have very powerful people involved in this. Because after all, when you look at the scripture says the whole world lies in the evil one. So you know, when you're going after those type of people, you're going after You're going after Freemasons and Satanists and people that have been practicing this kind of stuff since the beginning of time, because because they hate God, and they love their God, who's not the God that we love. They love their God, Lucifer and Satan, and they're very devoted to him, and they're going to do what they're going to do. But you're going to find in eternity that it's going to be hellfire is going to be hellfire. So
I totally agree, and I keep telling people, because people ask me, it's like, how can people do that? How can people be that way and do this kind of act? And I'm like, well, how you feel in your body, in peace, in the truth, they feel in peace in the lie.
In the lie, yep.
In the inversion. Yep. And that's how it is. That's the game. That's the spiritual warfare. They've literally put themselves in a place of like, where it's ingrained into their nervous system to believe it and love it. So yeah.
Yes. And then some of them, of course, like, we're believers and we're raised with the scripture and a church and worshiping God. They have generations that are on the opposite side, that are raised, and ultimately it's a man-made religion, where they go back to worship their God, which is it's the god of Baal actually, but it's
Moloch.
something. Yeah, Moloch. So it's these are generations of satanic people, and then a lot of the ones that were sending my dad the letters were generational Satanists that knew they were entrapped, and a lot of them became believers, Otto, and but it was hard to get out without losing their life or losing their loved ones' lives, because they betrayed the satanic movement.
That was part of their culture, right? To create a situation where you're in for you're in for life. And they had all the video and footage and everything they needed to put you in the ground if they needed to.
Now there was a lady named Nancy Schaefer. Are you familiar with her?
Sounds very familiar, but please.
She was a believer. Really, she was a really strong believer, Sunday school teacher. I think she was from Georgia. She was a congresswoman.
Yes, as soon as you said congresswoman, yep, I know what you're talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
Good, you know about her. Now she was going before the UN and saying that this is an international thing. We need to protect our kids. Now, she was shot to death with her husband in their bed, and they tried to say that they had financial problems. And of course, the children of Nancy Schaefer and her husband said no, they were well set financially, they wouldn't do that. But they were shot, both her husband and her were shot to death in their bed, but she was exposing them too. She was high profile, obviously a congresswoman, but she was she was a strong believer, but she was on the front lines of exposing this stuff. So,
yeah, I've been trying to compile videos and interviews of all the people from like pre-Trump that were ahead of this, because I think it's important to show that this has been going on, like archival footage of that. This has been going on for a long time, and it's not just something new. I think people are like, "Oh, it's just because of the elections." It's like, no, it's just a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and then of course, the Clinton Foundation and the Bushes, they're all involved in this stuff. Obama. And I'm sure you're familiar with Pizzagate and all that.
Yep.
Did you want to know anything specific about my?
So I have just two more questions, and I guess one of them is kind of like a two-parter. But the first one is just about the movement, the Q movement. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's been very big. It's been ever since 2016. There's been this like movement around it, and you told me that your father had this network of people that he worked with. So my question is, do you think the two are connected somehow, and he kind of helped start this movement from back then?
Honestly with you, Otto, I really don't know. I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure, simply because I don't know. I really don't know.
That's a solid answer. Just because, and honestly, in my mind, it just, I guess it was more of like, like, was there any sense of it? That's what I want to, but yeah, that's an answer. It is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he obviously had a network of people that he worked with, but he never said that word Q or anything. So I don't know for sure. And then
Was there any connections to in the past of people that are now like at the forefront of it that he had connections with?
I don't know that either. And like I said, there's things he kept from us for our own safety. And then, but he always said we were well protected. And what that meant, I didn't ask any more questions.
That's good. That's good. I like that. Well protected. I mean, because that I think because I believe your dad was at that time where a lot of people are getting to now, which is like at this whole nother level of consciousness, right? This whole other level of awareness, and be able to connect dots that most people can't. And so I think, most of the people that have been involved that would say something like that is like, oh, they're talking about a lot of layers.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you really are. So it's, the good Lord takes good care of us. And when it's our time, it's our time. So he's the ultimate protector. And I know when my dad he passed at 83, but it was, he fought the good fight, and he said, Greg, I'm going to fight this tooth and nail until God calls me home. So he did that. And he was someone that, he had a good, healthy retirement from the FBI, but he said, he didn't spend his retirement on the golf course like a lot of them do. He said, I got to fight this, because he was a patriot through and through. Yeah, he was a hardcore patriot. And matter of fact, in the 60s and 70s, he used to take me to the barber shop and make sure I got the proper haircut. I wasn't bound to be a revolutionary, according to him. Had hair down my, I had the big button chop sideburns.
Yeah.
Shoulder, and I liked that, but I didn't, I liked it because my girlfriend liked it. Who's now my wife, by the way. She's a beauty.
Yes, I met her a little bit through Instagram.
Yes. So to him, anybody with long hair back then, now we know better today, obviously. But to him, anybody that looked like that was a revolutionary. And I said, Dad, I'm not a revolutionary. I said, my girlfriend likes it. So he would take me to the barbershop and tell him how he wanted it high and tight, and basically humiliate me. 14 years old. So, but that was the type of person to him. A patriot was one with short hair. When he got older, he changed his views a lot. And
sure, no, I mean, but you're saying, I get what you're saying. You're like, he really was like a true patriot in the sense that what I understand now, what it means to be a true patriot, which really, in my point of view, means fighting for those more vulnerable and the children. It really is. It really is. That's patriotism to me in this land of the free, to be able to speak your truth too. So he definitely aligned with that very much.
Yeah, he did, and he changed some of his views when he left the FBI, because the FBI, they would tell you what to investigate, and they would point you in a direction. It was your job to find out who was involved. But when he left the FBI, those skills he developed, he could diversify them, and he was a great interviewer. When he interviewed someone, he would know how to sit down and make that person feel comfortable, and he would know how to get that person to open up and disclose information. I think that was one of his strengths. He knew how to interview, and he knew how to talk to people, and he was genuine. But he was originally, we used to argue, him and I, about the JFK assassination. So when I went to college, we saw and this is back when you could have more free speech on the college campuses. They brought an outside group in that did a seminar on the Kennedy assassination. And it was a small Pennsylvania college. And I was amazed at how many witnesses disappeared, and all the other stuff that went on, the magic bullet theory, all the other stuff. So and my dad thought that Oswald did it no matter what, because the FBI told him to think that. So we would argue face to face, so we were almost at fisticuffs. But
I can imagine.
he
Wow.
apologized to me. He said, "No, we didn't. We know it." I said, "Dad, you're brainwashed." And later on,
Wow, this is the greatest little moment that the son had to tell Ted Gunderson, your father, that he was brainwashed. That's great.
oh, I told him too, and then he had a bad temper. Oh boy, you don't want to get his temper going. When his eyes started to bulge out, you were in trouble. That's when you head for the hills. So, him and
That's lovely. I love that.
we would argue about that, and then he said, "Greg, you were absolutely
That's passion to me. That's not anger. That's just passion, man.
yeah, it was passion."
Yeah.
Just want to the other end of it. That's all.
Yeah. You're just a son and just got the, and just, you know, that is what it is.
Yeah, he said he told me I was brainwashed. I said, "No, you're dead." So he later on he said, "Greg, you were absolutely right about that." So I said, I told him, "Old age doesn't mellows you out, Pop." So, but he was then he started when he left the FBI, because the FBI was, you had to do your job. You had to go you had to do a certain you had procedures to follow. But when he left it, he obviously those cases he saw, and he started to really have his eyes open. And as you know, he had a lot of credibility.
Mm-hmm.
But then those same people that he worked for and worked with, some of them turned on him.
Throw him under the bus. Yeah.
Yeah, he had others that were, he had, he was exposing MK Ultra. He was exposing a lot of the deep state activity that they were doing to common people. And that was drawing the ire of the wrong people, the high end, real nasty people. So it was it was interesting. And so there were times when he had to leave the LA area and leave for a good while and go kind of undercover, and would not leave a mailing forwarding address because he had contacts on the street would tell him, "Ted, you need to get out now," because they were looking for you. And so there were times he really had to go. And there were people working with the black ops and the lack of a better word, the organized crime that work together at times to get rid of him, and they do it to other people. So he had to get out of town for a while, and that was, and then he would get word it's okay to come back now. So he did that. He had to go into hiding quite a few times because of what he was exposing. But he was smart in that way because he had a lot of contacts on the street. There's a lot of good people, Otto, that are still in the FBI, the CIA, and other areas and you're seeing it now because Trump is getting rid of the bad ones, and and there's a lot of bad ones that went well entrenched before even Obama became president. They were under Bush. They were probably under Reagan. Definitely under Clinton. So he's getting rid of a lot of this subversive movement, which is pretty much communistic in its approach and goals. So
it seems to me like they're almost forced. They're being forced to expose themselves right now. That's what it looks like, little by little, and he's just picking them out like weeds.
He's picking them out like weeds. He's a smart man.
He
and
is.
Of course, they all. We know he's not a great speaker, but he's not. People didn't vote him in because of his speech patterns. They voted him in because he's a New York gutsy fighter. And he's
honestly everybody that I met everybody that I've met that is just aware and is like a genius does have a difficult time in speaking because they have to like dumb down their thoughts to words, and sometimes it comes off that way. But yeah, I agree. He's good. He's good.
He's like three steps ahead of them. And I think that with the rioters and stuff, he's just biding time to. Obviously, we know that he's letting the communist agitators expose themselves to what they really are. You know, they're destroying all the businesses, and many of these businesses are minority owned. That minority business owners have worked 40, 50, 60 years to build up, and now. You know, those little businesses are being destroyed. But
yeah, crazy. No, my opinion on that is they want it all destroyed so they can buy it on the cheap.
You got it.
Putting fire to it, getting it torn down, forcing people out, because then they can come in and just swoop it up.
I got to tell you, that just reminded me. Now, we live maybe an hour south of New York City. Now, I'm a truck driver. Truck drivers we see things in logistics behind the scenes. So if there's going to be a riot, a truck driver will drive 2 tanks to that area so that the National Guard's coming in. So what happens is the logistics move before the event happens. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay, so we see a lot of this stuff. But a lot of truck drivers are big talkers too. So because
you guys have a whole network. You have a whole language too.
We have a whole language now. It's sort of like it's not like Cannonball Run or something with Burt Reynolds. Some of us are more, we got a little more. Our English is a little better, I think.
but I get it. Yeah, it's the whole thing, man.
The one story I have to tell you, and you just brought this up, which is great. Well, we're maybe an hour south of New York. But there was a driver that comes in where I deliver to. He's from the New York area. Now, this is firsthand information I got from him. He has a friend that was approached on the street. And the friend was approached by 4 men who they were told they were going to give him some bricks and rocks. If you destroy this building, we will give you $25,000. You've got a 3 to 4 hour window to decide. This is first-hand information. So he said, we will give you $25,000. And here is, they gave him a number he can text if he wanted to do it or not to do it. So you got a 4 hour window to do this. So he reported to the police. But exactly what you said, and there were 4 white men, wealthy to do white men, that wanted this store. I don't know where it was in New York. This is first-hand information. They wanted it destroyed, and the guy was going to get $25,000. Now, he reported to the police and didn't do it. But this was exactly what you said. The people are gonna sell on the low end, and then they're going to be those that buy these buildings up, or destroyed buildings, for lack of, because they're destroyed. And they're going to probably build tenement buildings, like apartment buildings. Is that kind of how you were feeling too?
I think it's 100%. That's how it's going to start. But the bigger plan is like, I don't know if you know about America 2030 and America 2050, that they're going to start to separate. You're right in saying that they're going to build those high rises because they want people to go into those buildings to separate them from the rest of the land that they're going to deem not allowed for human beings.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in alignment.
Good. Now, do you find in what you know, do you find the fires on the West Coast and the Northwest? Do you find them doing the same thing with that?
100%. And there, I don't know about New York, but here in California, and I got footage of this from a radar website that could see infrared. It has a camera to see infrared. They're using dews,
wow.
DEWs.
Okay.
And it was caught. I have it on my IGTV. I posted about it, and it catches the laser coming from the sky through the clouds.
Wow.
Into these areas. So yeah, I think that's exactly what they're doing. Just clearing the land up for what they want.
Right, and then the whole thing with not clearing the brush out is it's too obvious. Not brought out, because it creates an inferno when you leave those dead, especially pine needles and things. It just we can't clean it up because of the climate control, whatever garbage. And it just, the common sense says, yes, you have to clean up, but common sense is, well, if we know it, they have to know it. So
yeah. Trump just went to Newsom and said, "Hey, what's up with this management?" And Newsom was like, "It's climate change." No, it's not. No, it's not, silly Billy. You've been in this for a year, haven't you? You know, it's just silly. Yeah.
Now, in California, Otto, there seems to be a big conservative patriotic movement there. Is that true?
Recently, yeah, there has been. There has been a big movement in. So that's the thing. What I've noticed is this is what's happening during the day. You have the people come out that is like true protesting for what? For trafficking, for like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then it just flips at night. It's literally every day, just like that. So yeah, there is a movement happening there. I actually just caught something in Yorba Valley, or not Yorba Valley, Yorba. I forgot the second part. It's a city right outside of LA County in California, and Yorba Linda.
Okay.
And they had a BLM protest that started. It wasn't BLM. It was like, no, it was BLM. It was like a subdivision of BLM. And then there was on the other side of the street, there were protesters for trafficking and for, just one against the other. So it seems as though the patriotic movement has risen in the West Coast. Yes. And now there's like civil fighting happening now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally, and you probably feel this too, I personally I don't see the other side giving up until they get their way. So I think they're going to have to be put down by force. It's not going to be. And one of the things my dad told me too, and he told me this years. He told me about 9/11 years ago, what is going to happen, and then he told me how they're trying to disarm the people, the people. And he told me, he said it was like 30 years ago. I said, Dad, that'll never happen. And then, everything he said, he has been true.
Yeah, and I was like, it's what happened in Australia, and it's just starting to happen here now. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're, with the defunding of police and the funding of the gangs and the putting the hard, and there's many hardcore criminals who go back on the streets again after they let them out. So, this is everything he said is, he told me years ago. And back then I kind of doubted it. But then when you start to see, putting a piece of the puzzle together and start to see it happening, you say, yeah, that the old man was right.
Yeah. So you start to connect the dots from the past to what's happening now. Right. Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's like, I kind of, I wish you could see that. He would be very upset now if you could see all this stuff, but, he did. He saw it coming.
Wow.
It was, it was.
Yeah, that's why I say that he definitely did have an awareness and connected the dots that most didn't, and that's Yeah,
it was very and growing up, with that and knowing that he was very credible, was and to the point, and then it was more dangerous in his. When he left the FBI, it was more dangerous in those first couple years after he retired, because he was stumbling onto this stuff, and then he wasn't get the exposure publicly for protection. So, when you're well known and something happens to you, there are people going to raise a lot of serious questions. What happened? What it must have been true. So the first couple years of investigating this stuff were probably the most dangerous after he left the FBI, because people didn't see this kind of stuff happening. And then through accident, the McDonald case said there was 11 sets of fingerprints that were unaccounted for at the crime scene. There were other things that were left at the crime scene that indicated that the Satanists had done this actual murder, fake suicide with McDonald. So they leave their calling cards, in other words, to because they believe certain things give power to them.
They can't help themselves. Yeah, symbolism. They just can't help themselves. It's part of their system.
And that's part of the system. They say that the symbolism will be their downfall. Symbolism and their numerals, and this is what they use. But it also is like a fingerprint at the scene. So these people are, their time's coming. I'm ready to fight against them right now, physically.
Me too.
My wife has to calm me down.
I don't know if you saw, I posted a video of me. I was at the store and got asked to put a mask on, and I just wouldn't have it. I'm sorry. I was like, and I had to record it.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and ask me any question you want.
Yeah. So I just have honestly a few more questions that we can end it here. But so really about the end of his life there, what I could find was that what I read, most of it was just from like Wikipedia and just some sites that I found randomly. But they said that he died of cancer of the I forgot now.
Bladder cancer.
Right, but they mentioned on there that it was because of cyanide poisoning or symptoms at least of cyanide poisoning. So first part of the question is that true, or what part of it is or isn't true, and is there any deathbed confession also that he had at the end? So go ahead.
Well, the first question is he did die of bladder cancer. That was it when it was caused by arsenic. Now we had a CIA doctor, Dr. Lucidi, and I think his videos on YouTube, Dr. Lucidi, he was a friend of my father's. Now he was there viewing the body. Now we had went out to see my dad, and he had to we had to get back, but he died like a week or two later after we came back here. But what happened, when he came back to this area, he was tested for heavy metals, and he had a lot of arsenic in his system. So they were somehow, Otto, they were getting arsenic into where he was, either he was breathing it. Now, he had a cloth type car, and he brought it back here to the East Coast, and my daughter got into it and got headaches right away.
She was little.
And she was little, and something smelled funny in his car. So it was in the cloth top of his car on the inside. Not a convertible, but it was a cloth. It was an older car, so he had a cloth thing there.
He said he didn't know how it was getting in there.
He didn't know how it was getting in there, but it was in his car. And he did have testing that indicated heavy metals, high levels of arsenic in his system. Now, when Dr. Lucidi was viewing the body of my father, we really didn't know if he died from arsenic poisoning. We knew that he had bladder cancer and he was fighting it for a number of years. Yeah. But one of the side effects of arsenic poisoning is bladder cancer. And Dr. Lucidi, when he viewed the body, the extremities all turned black, indicating the cells released the arsenic into the body. The cells
and it was going through to the extremities.
Oh. Yeah. So it was all going to extremities. Wow. He viewed the body. And he said, yes, he was 99%, 98, 99% sure that the bladder cancer was caused by the arsenic because the body's extremities turn black. I guess that's what happens when you have that happen to you. So yes, it was that, how they're good at what they do, how they got it in. I knew it was probably in his car. It might have been in his apartment. I don't know how they got it to him, but it definitely was, the bladder cancer was caused by arsenic. And that was indicated. We didn't know for sure at first because the body hadn't released the arsenic into the system. So we definitely knew it was bladder cancer, but one of the side effects of bladder cancer or arsenic was bladder cancer. So yes, definitely. It was caused by, the bladder cancer was definitely caused by arsenic poisoning. Yes, and that would be
wow. Yeah, that's a big confirmation for me. I actually didn't know that. I thought it was, the way they wrote it down was as if like it naturally happened somehow, and I'm like, no, that doesn't happen naturally.
And there were a lot of attempts on his life through his career as a private investigator. He was ran off the road. They were They also loosened his lug nuts on his. He had a little pickup truck. They loosened the lug nuts on his pickup so that they came off. You know, and I guess the speed limit's pretty high out there. So I think it came off. I think the wheel almost came off, and then the state police came out and said I think the wheel did come off, and the state police said someone tried to have you have a serious accident. So they shot at him. They shot through his kitchen window at him,
and nothing stopped him. Nothing deterred him. He just like
nothing deterred him. Nothing deterred him. He had divine protection. He really did. But his mission was to get to expose this stuff, and thank God that there are people like you and the digital warriors that are doing the job. But it's my hat goes off to you guys. It really does.
Taking the baton. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the kind words.
Sure.
So yeah, just that last question. Was there anything that he mentioned to you at the end, like any deathbed confessions of what he found or what he searched that didn't make it into anywhere?
No, because when we left, he was pretty much out of it. The last when we last saw him.
Tell him what happened when you got there. He was good.
Yeah. Well, when we got there, he was good. When we got to California to see him those last couple of days, we were there. But suddenly he got incoherent. It was kind of weird. I couldn't figure it out. So I really don't know. But he was good. He recognized us. And then a day or two later, he was mumbling to himself. It was kind of, and to this day, I don't understand it.
I can probably give you some light, a light into that. Heavy metal poisoning affects the nervous system. It really affects your brain.
Okay.
And so I have my girlfriend. She had heavy metal poisoning from living close to a refinery in Huntington Beach, California.
Okay.
And she literally got diagnosed with bipolar disorder because she was just going nuts. But then we found out what was going on, and she started detoxing from her body, and it literally healed her mind completely. So I think that might be the case of why the distortion happens in the brain.
That would make total sense. Yeah, thank you. But there was nothing that I could say there was like a final deathbed confession or anything out of the ordinary. But he was he was a fighter, and he believed in what he did, and and the thing is, the thing I admired about it, because it cost a lot of what he did. It cost him, lack of a better word, it cost him personally, because the FBI basically threw him out of the alumni. He told them they were dirty. He also he could have lived comfortably in his retirement, which he did well with retirement. But he did a lot of seminars. He paid for a lot of things on his own, and he helped a lot of people out with his finances and things. He would set people up. He would send them money. So there were things he did personally, and then he was just a very generous guy. Very I don't know. He was good to us kids, very good to us kids. He helped me out many times. I got in a jam now and then. My dad would help me out. So, he was just a good guy, and he was even back then. Like, I always thought of him as dad, because your dad, his faults and his good points. But now I see that he was a true American hero to a lot of folk, and he wasn't perfect by any means. But he was a hero who loves his country, and he wanted to respect for.
And I want to add just some what I believe is going to be what's going to happen, because why I'm going to do it. I really see your dad as a hero, like you say. I see him as a patriot. I see him as a man, just a warrior. Honestly, a warrior. So just know that I do believe that his image, and he will live in infamy. He was one of the OGs. I can tell you that.
Oh, heck yeah! Was that Original Gangster?
Original Gangster, yeah.
That's what we thought.
There you go. See, you got vinyl. I got OG. So there you go.
That's good. Thank you very much, Otto. Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate the time, and say thank you to Sue for me. Like, it was so great that she reached out. I was so giddy, like a little child when I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening.
Well, we're just basically ordinary folks. So
Well, whenever we see these things, it's so exciting because for years
she's talking to me.
we've known this, but to finally see other people say, it's like, oh my gosh, Dad would be so happy. So when I see these on Instagram, I am just like, I know if he can see this, his work wasn't a waste of time. And so thank you for posting.
He is.
Thank you, Audia. She said thank you. Did you hear all that?
Yeah, I did. And I always want to say he totally is seeing this. He's so proud of you guys. So proud of what's happening. So I believe it. Because the energy can't be created or destroyed. Energy just transitions, man. So he's there.
He's proud of you too. Absolutely, he's proud of you.
I feel it.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's been a pleasure.
To you guys, if you guys are ever here in the West Coast, please reach out. I'm more than happy to have guests in my house, especially you guys. Good energy.
Okay, thank you so much, and may the Lord bless you.